You know what else I saw since we're talking about movies?
What?
I finally got to see Deadpool 2.
Oh, you hadn't seen that.
No, it's a bummer. I didn't get to see it in theaters. I saw the first one in theaters, and I really wanted to see the second one, but I didn't get around to it. You know, kids and money and stuff. And
Right.
then we rented it. My wife fell asleep, and then our rental expired. And then it came out on Hulu, and she fell asleep again. And I'm like, God damn it. So the other day, I just watched it. And can I just say, I think I'm done with superhero movies? Not even in a bad way. I've just seen everything I needed to see on the screen. So I think my bucket list of superhero movies are checked. Like, Infinity War's done. They're all going to be convoluted from this point out anyway. And I finally got to see a good Juggernaut. So
Yeah, I'm
it's
really
like the minute I saw Juggernaut, I was like, it's a good Juggernaut. I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm good now. That's it. Like, I've seen everything I need to see for superheroes. Yay.
there was no I'm the Juggernaut bitch. It was great.
Right. Juggernaut is like one of my all-time favorite characters. My brother will back me up on this. I loved the Juggernaut, and like to see him finally on screen, I was like, yeah, the Juggernaut. Great. And he's good, and it's great. He has a great fight with Colossus. I was like, I'm done. I don't need to do this anymore. I'm done with superhero movies. I'm good. They're all stupid now anyway.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good. It's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, my name is Zach Rye with Old Man Gaming. Welcome to another Horrible Gaming Podcast. You've chosen to tune in, and therefore, good luck to you as we do this thing. But before we get into it, oh man, it's been a bad day, everybody. You're going to have to be patient with me. With me, as always, is
Neil, aka Tiny Wizard.
All right, so before we get into all the fun stuff we have to talk about today, I just want to go ahead and do a couple of quick credits. First of all, if you're watching this on YouTube, all the fancy graphics that you see were provided by Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And of course, the theme song, if you are hearing it, was provided by the man who makes the music, my brother Nick Van Siders, and we thank him for that.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so credits out of the way. Let's get to fan interaction, one of our favorite parts of the show. That's where us talk to you guys. We read your comments on the Discord and the YouTubes and all the other places.
Us talk to you.
Us talk to you. Us talk to you with our words. Our words.
That ear.
We use words to speak with you, and then you listen to us with your ear holes. So anyway, we also use your comments to decide the horrible arena. And sometimes we ask you questions. Sometimes we just like a back and forth conversation. So we did not get a lot of comments from you guys this week. That's fine, but we do love to talk to you. So feel free to comment to us. But nonetheless, we only got 3 comments. 1 on Discord, 2 on YouTube. The first one was Kev Too Tall just said LOL and then a poop emoji. Which I responded to him, I'm confused by this one, laugh out loud. He either thinks the entire podcast was poop, or he's referring to, I believe I said something about pooping in my hand was the same as what I think of Kojima doing a Silent Hill game. But then we got a hate-filled comment from our favorite commenter, Arsenic Steel 00. And he said, I apologize for the language, how the fuck does buying a $1,000 GPU every time a new $1,000 GPU release considered future-proof? ? You're just buying the new stuff at the same rate of availability. You haven't future-proofed anything. Arsenic, man, look, I like when you comment. I like the fact that there is a guy out there who feels the need to listen to our show every week, even though he very clearly hates and disagrees with everything we say. Nonetheless, I gotta say, sometimes I can see where you're coming from. You're way off base here, man. $1,000 GPU, if you bought $1,000 GPU right now, you would not have to replace that for probably 10 to 15 years. Like that's the highest of the high end. You're not going to need a new thing. Nothing is future-proof. I don't even think we used the word future-proof in the last podcast, but it's still a better barrier to entry, a smaller barrier to entry than the consoles. And Arsenic, another thing, man, you can get PC parts. You can't get a PS5 or an Xbox Series X. I don't know. What do you feel about this comment there?
Well, I mean, to kind of rebut what you say, like, yeah, you can get PC parts, but if you're looking for specific ones, the newer ones, they're just as hard to get as the consoles themselves.
I wasn't even saying that last week, though. I was saying get a budget PC and then replace a part when it needs to be replaced. But replacing a part when it needs to be replaced is very, very far off.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with him. There is that would be ridiculous, spending $1,000 every, what is it, about 3-4 years when they have a revision and then they come out with the new generation shortly thereafter. I mean, if you were to do that, you're not future-proofing shit. You're just just buying a new one every time.
But you don't have to do that, is the thing. That's insane. No one needs to do that.
I will say, if somebody has the means and ability to even find one, if they will not be out enough and are enthusiast enough to go ahead, sure, they can buy that $1,000 GPU, but again, there's a small subset of people like myself who are kind of looking for that. But again, once you buy that $1,000 GPU, you're good for a long time.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Hell, I've got a $500 GPU in mine. I'm not going to need to fix it or replace it for a long time. Like, at least as long as these consoles are around. Like, if you bought the new GPU every time it came out, it would be ridiculous. But the whole point is you don't need to do that. And we never said to do that.
It's also worth, a distinction also worth mentioning as well is if you're spending $1,000 to a scalper for one of the ones that only costs like $500-$600.
Right.
Whereas it's the actual $1,000 GPU, because then if you're spending $1,000 for the low end of the GPUs, either NVIDIA's or AMD's, I mean, at that point, like, you're just being stupid.
Right.
Like, anybody who's paying the scalper, unless you have like a life or death reason why you absolutely 100% need to pay the scalper to get the thing and you just need it now, like, I don't feel bad for people who are like, oh, I had to spend $1,000 on this GPU to get it. It's like, just wait. If you don't need it this very second to save your life, just wait. I tell that to the people too who are looking for the new consoles.
Right.
Just wait. If you can't get it.
Yeah, it's real silly. And I just to throw that out there, we were not and are not recommending you spend $1,000 every time a new part comes out. We also, I don't think, ever said future-proof, but nothing's future-proof. But what we're saying is if you were to buy a budget PC right now, then when a part needed to be fixed, buy the high-end one, you're talking about coverage for like 15 years, like a long time, especially with where technology is right now. And the fact that the changes are going to be incremental, they're not going to require that many updates. Like, there's a much bigger tail end on that, you know?
I mean, there's some out there that are so high end, they lose support for future versions of like DirectX.
Right.
Before like the card itself wouldn't be able to physically run the game. Like,
well, that's true.
They're so beefy, they're over beefy to just have that extra headroom.
Right. Exactly. It's a little silly to think that you're spending $1,000 every time anything comes out. So, just saying, buddy. And Arsenic, on a side note, not fighting with you at all. Are you happy with this generation of consoles? Like aside from like your love of PlayStation, which is very clearly there, and I respect it. Are you happy with like what they're offering this time around, and what they've given you? I don't know if you were able to acquire one. Because there's such a small amount of them, but if you did, I want to hear what your experience was with it. Like, are you happy with it? And again, I want to one more time just hammer this home. I don't have anything against PlayStation 5 users or PlayStation 5s. I have problems with some of the things that Sony does, but I also have just as many problems with some of the things Xbox people do and Microsoft does. So, like, we're equal opportunity here. I have no hate for a console, but I'd love to hear from you if you are actually happy with this console generation, what you think of it. So moving on to happier things, at least happier for me. We did get one vote on the arena there, champ.
Yeah, I saw that. One whole vote.
Green Scar 83. My vote goes to Carmen Sandiego. I have always loved a good heist. That said, Beautiful Joe sounds amazing. Also, Neil is a national treasure for bringing Nicolas Cage into this. Is it a bad thing that I want to see a live-action Nicolas Cage platforming? Any chance we can get a face-off platformer voiced by Cage and Travolta? I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but there you go. So, I don't know. I think that's everything for Fans Reaction there, champ. I did get a win on the old Horrible Arena. Let me go ahead and, I don't know what notebook that's in. My little points. There it is. There it is. Mark that up one. So on the Horrible Arena, since we're a little bit ahead of time on Fans Reaction, I do want to discuss how I think we should be doing this. So we decided to do the new 52, right?
Okay.
Well, I have come to realize that the new 52 would be 52 potential possible points you could earn. And that in those 52, with 52 being the potential possible points that you could earn, the first person who gets 27 points will win the new 52, regardless of how many we've done.
True.
So, I am saying this from now on. When somebody hits 27, they win that round, and we move on to the next one. And it resets the counter. So, there you go. So, when this ends is completely devoted on which one of us gets to 27 first. Which you are much closer than I.
Yeah, not that much. I think I'm only up by, 3?
You are up by 3 points currently. You are at 10. I am at 7 at this point. So, yeah. So, there you go. Whoever gets to 27, we then reset the counter. That person wins, and we move on. Sound good?
Sure.
Great. We're handling stuff. We're settling stuff in the public right now. Okay, so I think that's it. Do you got any questions to ask anybody?
No, I don't, because I wasn't ready for it.
Guys and gals out there, I do want to say we were not ready for this show, period. It's been very stressful. We both had a lot going on this weekend. I had a lot going on just this evening. Plus, we are recording for the Horrible Game Awards. So I do want to say, just as part of Fans Reaction, I'll probably say it at the end of the show too, there will not be a podcast proper next week. It will be the Horrible Game Awards. We urge you to listen to that. It's going to be a super long show, and we're going to give out our personal awards that nobody cares about for the second ever time. So just so you guys know, next week it will be the Horrible Game Awards replacing the podcast. And then we'll be back the week after that. So, yeah. All right. So, let's move on then to our first talking point.
Alrighty.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right. So, that brings us to our first talking point. And this is a talking point I kind of put forward. I really wanted us to discuss this because I got to say, Neil, I'm a little bit nervous. Let me explain why. Now, this is the last week before Cyberpunk, guys. This is the last time you'll hear our voices before the new world post-Cyberpunk is, whether that's bad or good. So I want to talk about what our feelings are about this game leading up to it, and I also want to talk very specifically about the hype train of this game and how I feel about it leading up to its release. So, I know if you don't mind me going off on a little tangent before you get a chance to talk, would that be all right?
No, would we do it any other way?
Well, at least I ask. Okay, so a couple of days ago, well, actually Saturday, my wife ended up having to work on a Saturday. She went into the office. I didn't have a lot of stuff to watch or do, so I was just hanging out. I just decided to, what I'll do a lot when I don't have anything to watch is I'll just go through YouTube videos and just start looking at stuff, other channels that I don't usually watch, other places that I don't usually watch, smaller ones, stuff like that. And I'm actually kind of excited about Cyberpunk, so that's what I decided to hone in on. I am really nervous about this game. A while back on the stream, on one of my streams, I was talking about Cyberpunk with, I think, C-Town at the time. And Kev Tutal was in there and said, what if it's not good? And which is interesting, an interesting idea that this game that we've all been waiting for 10 years, that is the most hyped and wanted game in the world in recent memory, could be bad. Here's my thing. After watching what people think this is, like not from IGN, not from the main sources, but what people think this is, just normal people with only like 1,500 viewers or 15K viewers, smaller channels, this game can't possibly be what it needs to be. And I'm very nervous about that fact. Some of the things that these people are saying, and they're saying, like, this is definitely in the game. Like, I'm like, there is no way that's in the game. And if it is in the game, that's amazing, but there's just no way the level of depth that they think this game has is there. So I'm very nervous about that. I want to get your feeling on that, because the question in my head started to be not, what if it's bad? The question in my head started to be, what if it's not life-changing? Because at this point, with the delays that they've put forward, and sorry, I'm still talking, I apologize, but another side effect of these delays is people don't realize, when people hear delays, they're so conditioned to go, oh, they're taking the time to make this better. That's not why people delay. They delay because, and it does make it better, but they're delaying because it's not finished. It's a big, big difference between it not being finished and it actually getting better. So, like, I'm very nervous that people now, because of these delays, are like, well, they took all that time. It's got to be the greatest game ever. No. They took that time because it didn't work, and they had to make it work. They didn't make it, like, necessarily better than what it was before. So, like, I don't know. What? I'm going to turn it over to you. I've been talking too much. But the hype train makes me very nervous for Cyberpunk 2077. Not because I don't think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a good game. But I don't think it's going to be what people think it's going to be.
So I have a couple thoughts about a couple different points that you made. And I'm going to try to touch on all of them.
Sorry, I did go on quite a rant. I apologize.
No, you're all right.
I've just had these thoughts in my head for a while. And I'm like, I got to get through it all before I get derailed,
So I think that when you take and look at other games that have had very long development cycles,
okay,
I think they suffer from the hype, the hype machine. You look at Final Fantasy 15, the Final Fantasy 7 remake, Kingdom Hearts 3. All of these games are made by Square Enix, I've just realized. So that might be a little side effect of it, too. Well, even something like Duke Nukem Forever, even. All had very long development cycles.
Right.
So there's this expectation put on them. Like, we do always think of, well, more time in the oven means it's better. But just like literally baking a cake, to go way back to that.
Right.
If you
no! Well, the cake returns! The return of the cake!
If you keep a cake in the oven, it's only supposed to be in the oven for half hour and you keep it in the oven for 5 hours, it's gonna be burnt. It's still gonna be cake, but it's gonna be burnt.
You've ruined this. You've ruined this talking point. All I can think about is how to make this about cake.
Yeah. I promise it wasn't intentional. I swear
It's all right.
it
It's
wasn't
all right.
intentional.
It makes everything. I'm so happy that it happened. I don't even care that it's derailing the segment. I'm so happy that it happened. Yeah, you get burned cake if you put it in there too long.
But again, to go back to like what you said as well about people like expecting something else, you had said like, well, not, based off of some of the other outlets. I think there are some of the outlets are starting to temper people's expectations to some degree as well. I watched an IGN when they first got their hands on.
I think I know what the one you're talking
most
about
recent time. Yeah. And they had said like there's this image of Cyberpunk being a run and gun shooter, it's not that. It is an RPG with shooter elements to it.
Yeah.
So you can't just assume that you're just going to run in and just mow everything down. Like there's still going to be leveling to it, akin to like something like Borderlands almost.
Well, and here's the thing though. You're right. IGN has tempered some expectations on the combat system, but I'm not even talking about the combat system.
Right.
Some of the stuff that these people think that is in this game is like the way they're like bring it. Like I watched a video on like romance potentials, and they were like, this person's definitely going to be romanceable. You can tell from blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? Like, they haven't said, nobody said that. Like, and I feel like this kind of stuff happens this kind of stuff happens when you get to this point where like it's been in the oven too long. So everybody's just building it in their head now. Like,
right.
They're putting in features in their head that may not be there. Like, there was one guy who was like, every character in this game is going to be romanceable in one way, shape, or form. And I'm like, no, they've said straight up that's not the way it's going to be. Like, and it's that kind of thing that like I feel like this game's going to be good. I'm not saying it's not, but I think it's going to be good, and it's going to be missing a lot of the things that people think is in there that was never necessarily going to be in there, and that's going to make a problem for people, Yeah,
like I know we've talked about before the Night City Wires, and I had watched the Night City Wires. I'd watched all of the Night City Wires, and the first two I was super about because I was expecting to get like a fair amount of information, and I did get some new information from those first two.
Right.
But after that, they kept just plotting out the same, here's another mission that you could be on.
Right.
This is another thing that could happen. It's like, okay, we know that's what it is. And it's like, this is character customization. This is what the guns look like. These are the factions that you're going to be fighting against. And it's like, okay, but like they've pumped up all these other features, all these things that could be.
Right.
And the fact that it's been in the oven so long, it's like, yeah, very, very much so. People are just going to start inventing things that could be in there.
Well, and the way they've talked about it too, they've talked about like honestly, I don't think anybody gives a shit about the gunplay. I think what they care about is all the freedom of character that you have in this game, and I don't know that that's all there. Is my thing. Like the way people are putting it together, like one guy was talking about how like he took this one comment that this one guy said once about NPCs being in the same place at the same time, about the romance options, and that you could actually cheat on somebody that you were in a relationship with, and that could have repercussions. And I'm like, man, whoa, slow down, champ. Like, I don't know that's even possible, what he was talking about, like it's just like the role-playing options that people think is available right now, I think needs to be the thing that's tempered, not necessarily the combat system, but the fact that people are just like, you can do anything in this game. And it's like, it's still a game. It still works on the same rules as every other game. Like certain characters can be interacted with in a certain way and others can't. Like, that's how it's going to work. Like, it's not necessarily going to be just like this, like, I mean, I'm sure it'll be more open than a lot of other games, but I don't know. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, and I think there's two parts of this also to take into consideration. I think that it could be somebody who, like, maybe there is a specific quest line where you, like, to use your example that you had given about like romance options and like cheating on,
Right.
like maybe there is a quest line
Right.
where you have to pose as someone's date, and if you were to cheat on that person, then there could be an issue with that quest.
Right.
Not like a free thing that could happen. And I also honestly, this is, it's getting to the point with some of these things that have been said about the game. It's almost going down the road of every kid knew this. There was always this one kid in every single elementary school playground. My uncle works at Nintendo, and he said, like, seriously though.
Yeah,
like,
I know what you're talking about.
It's like one part somebody getting their hands on some sort of information and stretching it out to just barely still be truthful.
Yeah.
And it's another part just making up crazy wacky stuff to just
Right.
like,
Right.
this game is such a force at this point.
Right.
Like, you can literally just say I'll bet you if we were to tag this, like this episode with Cyberpunk, or like the next episode of Halo Infinite Road with hashtag Cyberpunk 2077 or something like that.
Yeah, people will
that
consume
it. Would
it.
just the views would just like explode on it.
Well,
Like,
and it's my next review, which makes me real nervous because I don't know exactly how to review this game, even from the first impressions point of view, because like I mean, at least what they've presented it as, there's just so much to do in it. Like, how do you review that?
from everything that I have heard so far, like I'd some outlet, I think it was IGN as well, also said that like they played, it was like 8 hours or something like that, and they
Right.
just finally saw the title screen.
Right.
Like,
right.
it's gonna be one of those things, and thank God, as we've already alluded to earlier, I can't remember if we did it on the show, actually, now that I think about it, but the next episode of the podcast isn't going to be a podcast proper. It's going to be the Game Awards.
Right.
And that's going to give us a 2-week buffer to actually get into Cyberpunk and actually be able to, give our thoughts and ideas on it. But even still, unless you are playing that game constantly 24/7, 8 hours, I mean, that's for somebody like you and I who have, a lot of stuff going on. 8 hours is a big ask.
Yeah, it's a lot of ask, especially with the game releasing on Thursday. I mean, I'll be able to I won't even be able to play it Wednesday, which is a real bummer because you and I are recording.
Yeah.
I'm so depressed about that. I actually have early access to it on the PC, but I can't play it because I got so much shit going on. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about,
I'm glad you bring up not being able to play it on Wednesday and being able to play it on Thursday instead, because I honestly don't even know how much I'm going to be able to play it on Thursday. And I took the whole day off for it in the Game Awards. Famous last words, because the last time somebody in the news about this game took off for it, 2 days later the game got delayed again. But
right.
But I mean, there's already images floating around of it's like 45 gigabyte additional
43.
download.
Yeah.
43 gigabyte additional download, and that's not even the day one.
Now, see, that I hadn't heard.
Yeah, I'd heard from multiple sources that that's not even the day one patch.
That's ridiculous.
That's an additional download install. So
I know that it's 70 gigs right off the bat, then it's 43 on day one. I didn't know that there was another day one patch coming.
From what I understand, I could be wrong on that, but
I'm
that's
very
what
nervous.
I have seen online. And if that is the case, I'm going to be installing that game forever. And God help my poor PlayStation 5 with the storage on that, because that's going to clock in somewhere around if I were to guess, somewhere around 140, 150 after all is said and done, if there is an additional day one patch.
Dude, plug your Ethernet into that PlayStation 5.
Oh, it already. I with the internet issues that I've been having, I've got Ethernet cables all throughout this damn house. Like I've said before, I don't know if I've said it on the podcast or not. I literally have 100-foot Ethernet cable that I run up my stairs because just how I have to do things. But yeah, I mean, even whenever I get it on launch day, it's gonna be a solid 3 hours probably before I can even do anything with it.
That's a real bummer. Like it's a real bummer because like I don't know how I'm gonna get that done and reviewed in 4 days with my schedule, and I just have to have it out or it's gonna be old news. You know what I mean? Like
right.
The thing is though is the biggest thing that I want to see is they have like sworn up and down and promised that you can go through the entire game without killing anybody, and that or like having a fight. Like, and I really want to see if that's possible, but I can't play that for a review, you know?
Right.
Because you're not going to get half the features of the game. So, like, I basically am going to have to start the game 2 different times just to see, just for the review purposes, which makes it even harder to do.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, side note, are you excited for the game? I mean, I know we've talked about some of the negative stuff going on. I think both of us are still very excited for the game to come out.
You know, I've reached that point of excitement to where it's almost negative excitement.
Yeah. Okay, good. We're on the same page. I'm glad.
It's not that I am like not looking forward to the game. I'm looking forward to the game, but like I'm just so hyped out on it.
Right.
It's just like okay.
It's almost angry. It's just like give it to us already, motherfuckers. Like
not
fuck.
even like that. I want to have the game so that I don't have to like anytime like any sort of like news about it comes out that I'm not like clamoring for, oh, what does it say? Or like any news outlet out there who was like, oh, we saw a picture of a new screen from what we saw, and like here's a 3-page write-up on it, and it's just like I don't care. Like it's gonna be good, even if it is. This is the worst of it, I think, is even if it is objectively bad. If there are things that are objectively bad, we, for the most part, are all gonna say it's good. Almost as like we have been waiting so long and this game has been given to us so much. I think that it's going to be people who find those issues with the game and are able to be objective about it and like keep those in perspective. Like, because like I feel like that taints people.
I think there is a whole group of people who are salivating for this to be bad. They can't wait to be the people to tell you that this game is bad because this game is so hyped. And I think I think you've got, basically what you've got is you have just a piece of meat hanging over a giant pit of hyenas and coyotes. And like whether or not they're good or bad, like everybody's hungry and the feast is going to be very interesting. Like it's going to be like blood in the water. And that's what scares me is that if this game, okay, we're pretty sure this game is going to be good, right?
Yeah.
At least good compared to what comes out nowadays. It'll probably be good. But I'm not even talking that this game could be like on an IGN scale a 4. I'm saying what if this game's an 8? I think if this game is an 8, people will go absolutely batshit on it, and they will descend upon it like a pack of jackals and tear it limb from limb. I think that the problem with this is CD Projekt Red has put this in people's minds that this is an 11 on a 10 scale, you know, and they've taken so long to build it and just built it up so much that like there's no stopping it now. Like it has to be that, And if it's anything less than that, it is going to be like the final cap to a shitty 2020, you know?
Yeah, I cannot see this thing get. Well, no. Let me take that back. I can see the game getting an 8, but I don't think it's going to get an 8. I think
I mean,
I
IGN's going to
almost
give it a 9 or a
wonder-
10. IGN's going to give it a 9 or a 10 because, you know, they're big bitches. And they're going to
Well-
do that because regardless of the state that this game is in, it is what it is. And they're going to give it a 9 or a 10 because that's what they do. They yes man people. But I'm saying if the game itself, objectively, regardless of what IGN says, is actually an 8, then they're in trouble, you know?
Yeah, and I also think that I don't know as if this will happen, but I almost wonder if there's going to be people who are anticipating the fact that everyone's going to give it 10s across the board and may give it like a 9 or an 8 to kind of course correct for their own like prejudgments.
Well, and that could happen too. I mean, the review system is so corrupt and shitty in video games, but I don't want to get into the weeds on that. But
You don't have to, Zach. You have a video about that, don't you?
ah, well done, Neil. I virtually high five you, sir. Yes, I do. I have a terrible talk on how review systems are corrupt and crappy and how to fix them. You guys can check that out here on the channel and everything else we have to offer. But aside from that, I think that the reviews are the least of our problems. I think the game itself, if it's an 8, like aside from what the reviewers say, because the top reviewers are going to say it's good. I mean, if IGN actually gives this thing anything less than a 9, I will crap my pants. I will even if this game is the buggiest, messiest bullshit with all the access they've had to this game, if it's anything less than a 9, I will crap my pants. I'll take back everything I said about IGN if they actually give this thing below a 9, because then I might be wrong. Well, it might not be as corrupt as I think it is, but it's gonna be. It's gonna be a 9 or a 10 with them. It's gonna be a 9 or a 10 with most places. It's just if it actually is an 8 or below, I think the world's gonna lose its fucking shit on them.
Well, from what I understand, embargo lifts on Monday,
Yeah.
so we will know very soon.
Yeah. I want to see what that review is. I'm really interested to see what that review is. I mean, it's a very interesting time to be a video gamer. I will say this. I do want this game just to be out and in the open so that we can be done with the road to it. Yeah. Like,
and that's,
good or
that's
bad.
A part of my negative, that's a part of my negative.
Right.
At this point, it's just like I just don't want to talk. Like I do want to talk about it anymore, but I don't want to feel like I have to talk about it.
Right. And it's almost like a collective groan. Like, you know that you're going to have to be like, and it's going to come out. We're going to have to talk about it after it came out. We're going to have to break it down after it came out. It's like, God damn it. We still have a month of coverage on this fucking game. And I'm excited about the game. It's just, God, I'm so sick of talking about it. I want to talk about other things. This game is so powerful that when it gets delayed or moves dates, entire months clear out. Like, get other games move. Like, that's fucking insane to me. Like, just, can we get this out so that we can go back to having a video game industry instead of a Cyberpunk 2077 industry? Like, that's what I want. So I think we've covered everything. We're excited for the game. We're sick of the hype train. We want it just to be out so that we can talk about it, right?
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. We're going to move on to possibly our second talking point. We'll be right back.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to our second talking point. And guys, gals, we don't have a ton of stuff to talk about this week. We got the Horrible Game Awards coming up. Cyberpunk dominates all of the news cycles. So, Neil, what do you think we should do for the second talking point?
You know, we know that we're going to be playing Cyberpunk here in a couple days. We already talked about that. We're going to be playing Cyberpunk for a while after that. But I think we should just talk about what we've been playing up until this point. I mean, because I think we all kind of, at least myself, slid into games that I know it's not going to be a long, a big time sink, knowing full well that if I were to get into something like that before Cyberpunk, I would never finish it.
Right, right, right. I gotta say, I have a little bit of a backlog right now, which is upsetting me. I don't like backlogs, but okay. Well, go ahead. What are you playing right now?
Well, I've only really been playing, well, I guess 3 things. I'm still making my way through the Doom Eternal DLC. I just because I really haven't had time to get into it, just because of my life situation, whatnot, up until this point. But I mean, it's been pretty good. Weird side note: Doom Eternal, the DLC, the music was not done by Mick Gordon, and you can tell. But that's just because like I kind of have an ear for those things.
Right, right.
I mean, on the surface, it's just more metal music, but you can definitely tell there's a difference. But I mean, I've been playing. Tetris Effect came out on Game Pass, and I actually just finished. I finished Journey mode the other day, and I gotta say, like that's one of like the coolest games I've played. For those who don't know, it is it's Tetris, but you make music with the blocks. So like you have basically like your standard backing beats that like a song, but it's a very plain song on its own. Whenever you flip the blocks, clear lines, or drop the blocks into place, that actually adds parts to the song. And you really can't break it either. It's really weird. I've tried to like have sounds happen off beat where it just sounds strange. But it doesn't. I mean, it's a little off, but nothing crazy. But I feel like that's something that people should at least give a shot. I know you and I talked about it when we were hashing out the Game Awards stuff.
Yeah. The Game Awards was really tough because, I handed out to the people we picked to be in the committee. They really showed up. I honestly didn't think as many of them would as they did, but we had a lot of nominations in a lot of categories. It was very hard to cut it down to 4 in every one.
Oh, yeah.
And that was just one of the ones that unfortunately got cut, but was initially nominated, and it sounds really cool. Very cool, honestly.
I mean, I got another one too, but I've just been talking. What have you been playing?
Well, I have been super into Deep Rock Galactic whenever I can play it. We played it on stream, not to plug again, but we played it on stream this last Friday, and it was a super successful stream. We actually got 3 subscribers out of it and a lot of views. You can go check that out if you want. I played it with Philbilly330 and Filthy Phil, Troll Extraordinaire. And I played with Troll Extraordinaire again last night. I love that game. That game is just so much fun. It's so simple and rewarding at the same time. And it's also one of those that, like, when Cyberpunk or some other game like that comes out, I could very easily put it down, not feel guilty, and go back to it whenever I don't have something else to play, you know?
Yeah.
So that's been a big one for me. I also played Haven, Xbox's new Games Pass exclusive game, and that's what I'm reviewing, and I hated every second of it. Can I tell you one of the things that made it even worse for me?
What?
Since we're just gabbing, but yeah, I just said gabbing, everybody. Just said gabbing. I got 10 years older in the moment.
Yeesh.
But so like I downloaded it, I played it for the 5 hours that I usually do to do the review. And then I was like, okay, done with this game forever, got rid of it. Well, there's something about that game where if you're using the game capture feature on OBS, it does not capture the picture. It only captures the sound. It's very strange. So the only way to actually capture it is with using the display capture feature, which I don't use often because that means you're just capturing everything on your computer screen. And I always think I'm going to accidentally put something into the video that is private, So I don't use that feature often. But so when I went to do the review, it was, the 5 hour thing was black screen, so I couldn't use it. So I went back in to play it, just thinking that I didn't have it set right the first time, played it a whole nother 20 minutes to find out that wasn't usable, had to go back in, but I had to literally re-download the game and play it 2 more times just to get the footage to do the review. It was so depressing.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So I was playing that, unfortunately, but as far as overall games that I love, I would have to say, well, my next one's kind of weird. Mahjong.
Okay.
I've suddenly found a love for Rishi Mahjong, or Japanese Mahjong, thanks to 51 Games in Switch, and I've just become obsessed with it. It is the most complicated, weird game that has ever existed in the world. I still don't even understand the scoring system. It's just
you
like,
clearly have never played Yu-Gi-Oh.
oh no, I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! This destroys Yu-Gi-Oh! It destroys Yu-Gi-Oh, man. I'm telling you, there is a 3.5-hour comprehensive video on YouTube to tell you how to play this very old Japanese tile game. It is crazy insane. Crazy insane. So what else you playing, man?
Yeah, well, you know what? One that I actually got around to, and I am kind of sad that I just now got around to and into it, was the demo for Hyrule Warriors, The Age of Calamity.
Oh man, I was gonna bring this up in the odds and ends, but we might as well do it now. Go for it.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoy that.
I hate that game.
You what? You hate it?
This is gonna be interesting because I downloaded that
So-
demo, excited about it, and just got mad. It just made me mad.
So I will say, like, I've never played a Warriors game before.
Oh,
I've I've never played one of those 1v100 games.
Mm-hmm.
So this was a new experience for me, and it was very complicated out of the gate for me because I'm thinking more so of like something like Devil May Cry, where
Right.
you have a swarm of enemies, but you have to kind of methodically take them on one by one, and they don't just like
No,
die
yeah.
in one hit.
This is cut swaths through them.
This is destroy everything. The only thing that's getting me with it, and I think it's only because I haven't spent enough time with it, is the button combinations and prompts that you have to do to use the Sheikah Slate runes
Yeah,
in combat.
yeah.
Because you have to hold the bumper, then time slows down, then you have to choose which one you want to use. But like you can use the paraglider too, but you can't necessarily jump unless there's
Right.
a point for you to jump.
Right.
But when you do jump like that, you can't use the paraglider. So there's a lot of like weirdness, and like it's more so my mind is locked into how Breath of the Wild works.
Right. And
And
that
I
was my
want
problem. It just
to
doesn't
play
work.
like that.
It just doesn't work for the universe for me. Like it just doesn't. It's not like it would have been one thing if they were like, we're gonna do this Dynasty Warrior game with all the characters from Link or whatever. But they made it in canon, and like it just, I don't know. It just does not work for me in any way, shape, or form. I also really don't like the idea of the whole time traveling thing, the little cute time traveling thing.
Yeah.
That you meet right off the bat. Like, that's not a spoiler, everybody. Like, right off the bat, you meet this, like, time-traveling robot from the future, your present day. Like, that almost makes me feel like is this, like, a different thing then? Because it went back in time? Or was this always there? And, like, that just bothered me. I don't understand why you couldn't, if you were going to do this, just do the story. Like, the original story of them going to war. Like, I don't understand why we needed this time traveling element that complicates an already overtly complicated timeline.
So I am not. I haven't looked into this because I do actually want to, whenever I've run my course with Cyberpunk, to come back and actually get this game and actually play it through.
Right.
So I've kind of tried to avoid spoilers as much as possible. But from what I understand, the time travel thing exists to, yes, push the story along to give us a reason to go back to that period of time, that 100 years before Breath of the Wild happened. But I guess there is something in that 100 years in the past that is important for the overall story of the Breath of the Wild arc.
Well, I mean, there's
So-
already a bunch of stuff that, like that 100 years is important to the story because it
Right.
sets up everything. I just don't understand why we need a time travel robot to tell that story. Like, I feel like you could just go back and tell that story, you know? Like, if you're going to
Yeah,
do a prequel, do a prequel. Don't have this weird, cute panic button built in, you know?
I get this feeling that I hope it is at least that this Age of Calamity is like a required reading sort of deal
Right.
for the next Breath of the Wild. But I'm too scared to go online to look anything up because
Right.
you know how people are ready and raring to go to give you spoilers on
Right.
fucking anything nowadays. So
Right. I don't know. I saw that
just
robot
avoid
and I
it
was like,
altogether.
I feel like that's a robot. That's a way to be like, none of this actually matters. And that makes me very nervous. Like,
yeah, well, that's the thing, though, is like this 100 years in the past, we already know what happens at the end of this game because of what happened.
right.
Because if that were the case, the time travel robot were to go back and warn everybody what happens and they find a way to save the day, if that's the case, then Breath of the Wild doesn't exist at all and is no longer
Right.
canon in the entire series, unless Nintendo themselves wants to branch that off into yet another complicated timeline,
Right.
which I would also not put past them.
I do want to say, since we should probably start wrapping this up, you need to play Hades. Is the only other thing I'm playing right now. I play it every
want
night
to-
when I put my kid to
yes.
bed, and it is. I have never played a roguelite so good in my life, in my absolute life. They absolutely did it better than anybody has ever done the genre before.
I really Supergiant, their whole catalog I've always wanted to play. I've just never gotten through to doing it. Bastion.
Bastion's amazing. Dude, you need to play Bastion. Bastion is one of the like 5 games I've ever 100%ed. I've gotten every achievement in Bastion. That's how much I love that game. That game, the music is amazing. The story is amazing. The narrator guy is amazing. Like, that game is phenomenal. I never played Transistor or the sports one. I think it's Pyre. The weird magic sport one.
Yeah.
I never played
think
that
was
one.
the name of it.
But Transistor was only on PlayStation, so I could never play it anyway.
It was?
Yeah, it was a PlayStation exclusive, PlayStation PC. And like, I could play it now, but like
Right.
I couldn't play it back in the day when it came out.
Ah.
But all right, well, why don't we move on to odds and ends, because I think we've just about wrapped this up. Unless there was one other one you wanted to talk about or anything.
No, I mean that was pretty much it.
All right.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to odds and ends. This is the part of the show where we like to collect little news stories that don't necessarily deserve an entire talking point and just give you thoughts about them, give you guys a heads up. There wasn't a lot that caught our eyes this week. I have 3, but they're very small, quick ones, and I know Neil does not have any, which is a change of pace. So
Yes.
I'm just going to go through my 3. This might be a really short segment, but if it is, it is. So the first one and the biggest one, and this is probably the most interesting thing for me, is that modded Xbox Series Series S's can play Dreamcast and PlayStation 2 games.
I saw that.
That is cool as hell. It actually makes me kind of want an Xbox Series S. I mean, I think it was the only thing that actually kind of pushed me a little bit more towards the Series S. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, if you do it strictly for that, you know, the 500 gigabytes is more than plenty for a bunch
Right.
of PlayStation 2 and
Right.
Dreamcast games.
And you could still get 1 or 2 Series S games and be good. I have a back catalog of PlayStation 2 and Dreamcast games. I have a Dreamcast that I still want to rehab at some point in my life. But it would be cool just to have a thing that could play all that.
yeah, definitely.
All right. So that was my big one. My next two are weirdly movie related.
Oh.
Yeah, so Monster Hunter, the movie, is actually now coming out on Christmas Day. It was originally delayed indefinitely from its original time, which I think was either October or November. But then they said, no, it's coming out in December 25th, which is cool. I'm slightly excited about this. But apparently it got pulled from Chinese theaters because of some presumed racial slur.
Okay.
Yeah, and from what I read the article, and from what I can understand is basically what they did is they do this very punny scene, and the scene is not described in the article or any article that I've been able to find, but they do a very punny scene, and the scene translated comes out to be kind of like racial against like an old Asian stereotype, and the only reason it comes out that way is because of bad translation in the in-between. So China actually pulled it from all their theaters because of that, and they're like rushing to fix it now.
You know, this movie, unfortunately, I know they're gonna just do away with anything that makes it Monster Hunter, because that's just what Hollywood does with these movies.
I'm hoping that's not true. I will say this. At the very least, from what I've seen from the trailers, the monsters and the weapons look exactly the same as the game. So if nothing else, those are right. I'm just very much hoping that the rest of the movie has enough elements from the game to keep me happy, you know?
Oh, wait. I actually just thought of one. I just remembered one was a thing. I have one.
Okay. Well, we can move on. That's all I needed to say about that one. What's your one?
There's actually rumor floating around that at the Game Awards, Tom Holland out of nowhere is supposed to present, and we're thinking that they're going to show a trailer for the Uncharted movie.
Yeah.
At the Game Awards.
Okay.
I mean, I've played, like I said, I played through the series this year, so I'm just like kind of on a kick for it. So I'm excited for it. But
no, I don't get me wrong. I think it'll be a fine movie. My problem was movies. I know. I just said I was excited for the Monster Hunter movie, so I shouldn't even. This is gonna make me a immediate hypocrite. I just always think that like, I don't understand why to be successful we have to have a movie out of it, and like whereas Monster Hunter has an okay story. It's not a story-based game, so you can very easily make an interesting original story out of it. Whereas Uncharted is great by itself, story-wise. Like, I don't need to see that cut down into 2 hours and have some other guy playing him. Like, it was perfect the way it was. So, I don't know.
See, I think
that's why I'm not as excited for it, I guess.
I think the reason why Uncharted is going to work is because the games themselves are set up like movies on their, like they are written and shot like movies, and no one relies on the other, while they kind of like make callbacks here and there to what happened, like little off comments.
That's the problem, though. That's the problem, is because it's shot like movies. Anything you do in a movie is going to be a smaller version of what you've already done in the game, or the director's going to try and make it his own, which is what happened with the Tomb Raider movie, and you're going to end up with something nobody wants to see because they just wanted to see the game. So, like, that's kind of my problem with it, is, like, if you took, like, a property that didn't have, like, it shot like a movie, it makes more sense to me because you can do your own thing with it and not destroy people's expectations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see where you're coming at with it. I think our differences in school of thought are based around our own logic of why it would be good versus why it would be
I get what you're saying,
good.
too. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I hope they're all good, honestly.
Yeah.
But at the same time, just overall, like, you don't make it in art unless they make a movie out of your art, you know? And I feel like, man, I'm happy with this just being a game. I don't necessarily need it to be art. But back onto the movie thing, my last one is Oscar Isaacs actually requested to play Solid Snake, and it has been told that he has been cast for Solid Snake in the
Yeah,
Metal Gear
yeah,
movie.
I saw that. Yeah, it is official.
I mean, I won't be seeing that movie. I hate Metal Gear. I hate Kojima, so I have no interest in seeing that, but good for Oscar Isaacs.
Yeah, I literally know nothing about the story of Metal Gear Solid at all.
I know more than I want to. I
I
promise you
know
that.
I know there's a guy named Snake, and I know at one point somebody's got their dick out. Outside of that, that's literally it.
I think dicks come out more than once, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's too many dicks in that series, if I recall
Too
correctly.
many dicks.
Suffers from too many dicks.
8 out of 10. Too many dicks.
You got anything else, or are you ready to move on to the horrible arena?
No, you were lucky to get that one out of me.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the show, the moment you've all been waiting for, the main event, the Horrible Arena. What is the Horrible Arena if you have never watched or listened? Well, first of all, you should watch or listen more. We're fun. And if you haven't, to continue, what we're going to do is both hosts are going to pitch you a game based on pre-existing criteria that we take turns picking. Last week it was my turn, and I picked action game, just a nice open action game. So what we're going to do now is each one of us is going to take turns. We're going to pitch you the developer, the title of the game, and what the game is and how it works. Then you guys get to take to all the comment sections and all the different places and tell us which one you'd spend your hard-earned money on if you had to choose. And then next week we get to decide the winner based on those comments. So the Quantum Coin has been tossed. Neil, you won it. You get to take it away.
Alrighty. So my project is called Project Out of Time, and it's going to be made by Gearbox.
You gotta be fucking kidding me.
What? No.
Just pitch.
Oh,
Just
no.
pitch. Just pitch.
Oh no! I
can't believe
hate when
this.
you say that.
I can't wait to hear your pitch. Just
Okay.
pitch. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to
Alright.
derail you.
All right. The game would be a single-player game with a multiplayer live service element to it that would take place in an alternate reality version of the Wild West. In this world, there's no real organized law enforcement, but rather those who are contracted by the government or, in most cases, mercs to hire to solve these problems, and they are called chronos. In this game, you would take the role of your own chrono, who is set on a series of seemingly random jobs, saving people, hunting other people or creatures that are slowly revealed to be connected. But what are chronos, you might ask? Those are people who use time itself to accomplish their goals. The game would begin with your character at level 1, and you would have a time pool of 30 minutes. This would dictate a lot of different things, as I'm about to tell you. This pool would increase as your level increases, but for all intents and purposes, this 30 minutes, it controls how long you have to finish your mission and what you can do. So by nature of these chronos, they literally use time and manifest it to do things. So say you want to have a character that does like heavy melee. Each swing of that weapon would cost you like something like 5 seconds out of your time pool. So a couple swings of your weapon to kill something will, the time it takes for you to do that, and it will use your physical time that you have left to finish your mission. Same goes if you were to run like a ranged character with like a light crossbow. Each arrow would maybe be a second off of your time. Armor itself could also provide like benefits and penalties. So if you wanted a high defense armor, you could have yourself be defended better and have like a higher HP, something along those lines. But it may take 5 minutes off of your time pool when you build your character out. Or you can have a lighter armor, or a lighter armor that could even make you more vulnerable, but would give you more time as overall. You can also use your time to heal yourself, pouring each second back into your HP, basically. But again, when you do any of these things, it takes the amount of time that you have left down. Now, how do you get time back? Well, the goal overall is to finish the mission before your time runs out. But you can also kill enemies that would grant you some time back to kind of refuel your time pool. So you can game over by getting 0 HP, or you can be frozen in time in place forever, essentially, if you were to run out of time completely. In the single player mode, that would just mean a game over. But if you're in multiplayer, that's where it would change up. Your party could then come to you to basically get you back into the game by giving you some of their time. So you could have certain builds that could be something along the lines of, well, we have a tank who can't really do that much outside of heavy damage, but he's got an hour on his time. So he could be the tank / healer, whereas somebody who's lighter and has less time could be the one that really deals the damage. The multiplayer aspect would also let you co-op through the campaign, as well as PvP or like raids as well, like slaying huge monsters or like taking out enemy bases. So that is my pitch, Project Out of Time by Gearbox.
Okie dokie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a good? Is that a good?
It's a really good pitch, man. It's a really good pitch.
I know. I'm nervous now. I'm curious to see what your pitch is.
Okay. So, my pitch. Give me 1 second to mark down your pitch on the score sheet. Okay. Here we go. My developer is Gearbox.
Fuck.
My game is called Take Your Time.
Jeez.
It is different in a bit of ways, though. So, how this game will progress. So you have this story where you create a character. This character is just a normal dude. Or a girl. They're kind of a badass, but just a basic level. They end up finding a time machine, a la, like, basically one day they're getting off work, they're walking to their car, this thing just drops out of the sky in front of them. Out of the thing pops an older version of them, dies, gives them the keys, and then they get to go into this time machine. So, what do they decide to do with the time machine? Well, they're just normal people. They're not that big. So why don't we steal some shit from history? So what they start to do is they go back in time to wherever they want to. They decide they're going to steal some really valuable artifacts from different places and replace them with forgeries. However, what's interesting about this game and how this will play is when you do this, it fractures time. So your character exists everywhere, and anything you can do happens. And how this is perceived is you'll get these paradox moments where other players of the game might be in the exact same section as you, and it will meet you up. And then all of a sudden you'll be in the same section trying to steal the same thing and trying to deal with the other person. Same person, same character, but it's a different you because it's an alternate you based on a different timeline because all timelines exist now. So what happens with this game is you just kind of go through the game trying to steal these major artifacts and get them back, and basically you progress through this storyline of aging your character until that character eventually meets an untimely end and gives the keys to the original character over again. So you kind of keep doing this time travel thing and competing against other characters as they jump in. You also have this constant paradox meter, which basically tells you how much havoc you're creating. And if you create too much havoc, it stops you from existing in the first place. So, like, if you decide to go steal the Mona Lisa and you decide to go in with a future machine gun and kill everybody and then take it off the wall, well, you'll generate so much paradox that it'll end up diverting the timeline too much to the point where you won't exist and you'll get a game over screen. So you have to balance it with how hard you go and how light you go and keep that paradox meter down. And as you progress through, you'll find out interesting stuff about how the time machine was built, where your character originally got the time machine, because you're in this weird loop where you got it from yourself in the first place, and just kind of progress through the story, always competing against other yous from different timelines, which are played by other players who have decided to play the game. And you're just kind of ships in the night almost. So yeah. That's my game, Take Your Time, by Gearbox as well. And there you guys go. You get two time-based games from Gearbox to pick from. Which is going to be you? Which are you going to spend your hard-earned money on? You can vote in all the places you know to vote on. So, Neil, what's going to be our next one?
So, you know what? This actually comes from a little personal story. We actually Monopoly's really changed over the years, and it's not like the slog that it once was.
I disagree, but okay.
No, that's it's a separate tangent, but basically, like, Monopoly now, this new version that we played the other night only takes about 2 hours total to play.
Okay.
And there's a very clear, like, it's designed around speedier play. But I just got this crazy idea because I didn't have anything ready to go. I barely had a pitch ready to go, honestly. So I'm going to get wild. Turn Monopoly into something.
Oh my God. Monopoly into a video game.
Yes.
Okay.
Turn it into something. And not, of course, not just like, oh, just like Monopoly, but like on Xbox. Like, no. No. Monopoly has been, like, they've got so many different themed ones, this, that, and the other. I think that there's enough there, and
okay,
we're fucking crazy enough.
This is
to
crazy. This is probably the craziest subject we've ever pitched. But all right, I'll pitch Monopoly as something else.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So there you guys go. We will be back with the plugs in just a second.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, guys, that brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that it brings. Neil, you got anything to pitch?
Well, not necessarily a pitch, but I actually have begun to write out my script for my next Terrible Talk.
I love the weekly updates on the next Terrible Talk that you give.
Well, it was like
I'm writing some stuff now, and now I've got an idea of what I'm gonna do.
Well, it was like 3 weeks ago, because like I tried to keep them roughly a month apart, which would be nice for my own sanity and ability. But just because of the timing of finishing school, of which I turned in my final project the other day, and everything like that, like, I wasn't able to devote any spare time to anything like that. It was strictly just that project that I had to do. But yeah, so there's that. And, you know, I like Halo Infinite Road. It's fun.
Halo Infinite Road is a lot of fun, and those episodes are very enjoyable, in my opinion.
Oh, yes.
As far as me, man, you guys could just check out everything we have to offer. I do want to give a special shout out to Prelude to Divorce for the last 2 episodes and the one coming up. We play this weird puzzle game called Heave Ho, and I have never laughed so hard in a Prelude with my wife. Like, those episodes are just like nonstop. I'm laughing. So I don't know if that translates to you guys, but I urge you guys to check that out. And of course, Horrible Game Awards will be next week. We will not have a podcast proper, but it will be me Neil, Philbilly330 hosting the Horrible Game Awards, the second annual. We've got a ton of presenters taken from contributors as well as big fans. And we break down all the awards that nobody cares about, which, in my opinion, I think we actually did better than the Game Awards for 2 years in a row so far. So, and I think we maintain that. So that will be next week. I'm working very hard to get it done right now. And other than that, we will be back with the podcast proper 2 weeks from 2 weeks from now. So. Other than that, check out everything our channel has to offer. You can check us out on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on Twitter at Old Man Gaming 9. You can join our Discord. The link is in the description below. You can influence this and all of our shows from there. And everybody, please click the like, click the subscribe. We have had a joy doing this for you. 71 episodes when this comes out. So, if anything good happened in 2020, it was this show. So we will see you guys next week.
That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else was good.
Fat Man came out.
Oh my God. Can we just tack this onto the end real quick?
Sure. Fat Man is amazing.
It is definitely a B movie, but you can tell that they cared at least a bit whenever they filmed it.
They had so much fun with it. Dude, just let Walton Goggins be crazy in anything. He was awesome from start to finish. Every fucking time he opens his mouth, he's great. The whole hamster thing was just you don't look like a hamster person. I'm a hamster person. You remind me of my mother. She didn't listen and she never knew when to shut the fuck up. Just love that. I love all the weird random stuff too in that.